Chicago downtown office space vacancy rate jumps to record high levels. Some people want to say, well, we got that whole work from home deal that happened. Yeah, I think more existing businesses and new businesses are avoiding Illinois, avoiding Chicago in particular, because of all of Let's Go Brandon Johnson's talk about progressive revenue. Meaning he's going to tax the absolute heck out of businesses and wealthy individuals, and they'll just leave. Just like you're going to see happen in New York City. Let's get into it. Here we go. Let's watch a little clip on Let's Go Brandon Johnson. And this guy is literally driving away business and investors and individuals that actually have resources, just driving them away in droves. He's not the only one. This is happening all over the United States, big blue Democrat-run cities, because they've all got a budget shortage. And they don't have the ability to make up for it with new taxes, essentially because they've already taxed the F out of their constituents. And they're like, let's go Brandon Johnson here. He's like, well, what if we did the $300 million property tax? And they just came down on him like a ton of bricks. So he's got to go after something else. And they're going after the rich. Guess what? The rich have taken their businesses and said, no longer, not in Chicago. We're looking elsewhere. Thanks so little. Here we go. Let's watch this clip.
The intense and growing wealth inequality is not sustainable, you all, for our city.
Neither are the expenses that you're incurring. And that is consistently the thing that gets overlooked is all these expenditures, all these expenses. And that's why you're having to constantly raise these taxes, because you got to pay for all this ridiculousness with something. There isn't a money tree in the backyard, but let's go Brandon Johnson. He is hosed. This guy is hosed. He got handed a hotbed, a hot potato in Chicago. And this guy he knows how to get money for his teacher cronies union. He understands that. He doesn't understand much of anything. And that's why he's mayor, because he's controllable. Here we go.
Not separate the immense wealth of the few for the poverty and insecurity of the many.
The mayor's proposal avoids unpopular measures like a property tax hike and a garbage collection fee increase. Instead, the mayor is pursuing what he calls progressive revenue. The mayor proposes bringing back the city's corporate head tax. He calls it a community safety surcharge. Companies with more than 100 employees would pay $21 per person every month. The revenue, $100 million, would be dedicated to anti-violence programs. The mayor also wants city council to sign off on
Doesn't Illinois already have some of the strictest gun control laws in the United States? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do. How's that working out for them? How many people got killed last weekend due to the constituents shooting each other with said guns? Yeah, a lot.
Hiking taxes on cloud computing, boats docked at city harbors, and expanding congestion fees on ride shares. He's also out with a first-of-its-kind social media amusement tax, a new online sports wagering tax, and a tax on hemp.
We are asking large corporations and big tech companies that have made trillions of dollars to pitch in a little bit more.
As for cuts,
you mean pitch in a little bit more than they already are? Let's go Brandon Johnson. Because they're already covering, top 1% of taxpayers covers like 50%, 60% of taxes, don't they? So they're already covering a massive proportion of taxes, and they are creating the revenue streams for governments to just piss away on absolute shenanigans. And that's what Chicago does. Chicago got rid of the shot spotter, meaning it was an audio thing. It heard when gunshots went off. But let's go Brandon Johnson, because he's an absolute moron. He got rid of that program, and people's lives are, they're dying because of it. It's insanity. But you know what? Gives me lots of content. We got stuff to talk about because these leaders are just absolutely, brain dead.
The mayor's team says they found $200 million in savings across city departments. They also want to extend a citywide hiring freeze, cap overtime for Chicago police officers, and use more civilians for non-beat police work. On pensions, the mayor proposes making a smaller payment on a planned extra pension payment. And to close the budget gap, now projected to be at $1.19 billion, the mayor wants to refinance old debt and sweep $1 billion of TIF funds, with about half of that going to Chicago public schools. After the address, the mayor's progressive allies sounded upbeat.
The people that we work with, our communities that we are accountable to, they've been pushing for progressive revenue sources for decades.
Other alders say the mayor's budget needs a rewrite.
We need to make sure that we're getting to the efficiencies that are important first for our taxpayers.
We really need to be looking to grow the size of the city. And what is preventing this city from growing is a lack of jobs and a lack of housing.
Okay. All right. So why the increase in office vacancy rate, right? Why the increase? Well, businesses that are there are looking at what this looks like down the road with 𝗪𝗧𝗛𝗠. Got a 1.2, maybe a $1.5 billion budget deficit. $1.5 billion. You're not just gonna, you don't have a couple of $50 million taxes here or there to make that up. You're talking about some real money that needs to be accounted for. And he's only really he can't do the property tax thing because he'll just get absolutely thrashed for doing that, which he already has. And so he's got to come up with it from somewhere. Well, what do socialists do? Yeah, they go after big business. They go after the wealthy because they need to pay their fair share. But in the meantime, businesses are looking in at this going, head tax, corporate head tax? Oh, I don't think so. I don't think we're going to do that. So they are literally not re-signing leases. Vacancy rate goes up. New businesses are not coming in. Doesn't help out vacancy because you're always depending on some businesses leaving, some businesses coming in, and you do not have many coming in to Illinois in general. Those businesses are going to Florida and those businesses are going to Texas because they don't have all these shenanigans built in. And especially moving forward, they don't have this absolute cluster, what, of a progressive revenue concept. That's just basically socialism 101, right? Let's take all the money from the rich people and give it to the poor people who aren't working. This should all work out. This should be great. Yep. And it's just not. New data shows loop vacancies ballooned over the recent third quarter as post-pandemic work trends continue to impact and impede demand. All told, companies reducing their footprint in the area over just the last 2 years have cost the business district 2.3 million square feet. This is ongoing. This is not just a one-time reaction to COVID or work from home. This is continually ongoing because you don't have new businesses coming in, taking down big amounts of square footage. In fact, you've got businesses leaving, and that's how that rate goes up. Because in a lot of other big cities across the country, their vacancy factor is slowly being driven down. But they don't have a nut job in office like 𝗪𝗪𝗠, who's only really got one way to go with, filling that budget, filling up those budget holes with hope. And that's, he's going to have to tax the rich and he's going to have to tax businesses. And they are saying, no, thanks. Pass. No go. Pass. We will not be participating. One of the problems that's being faced right now in Chicago is that for so long, downtown has been centralized for businesses. And now in a post-COVID world where more and more companies realize that remote work is possible, you suddenly have people wondering, what is there downtown to be offered? And when you got a bunch of young criminals running around shooting one another, yeah, you don't want to go there either, right? There has to be some return to the office, but a lot of companies are opting to remain remote. So you got to make it worth their while to come back. And if you're talking about doing a corporate head tax, that is the exact opposite of making it worth their while to come back. That is the exact opposite. Does Texas, does Florida, does Nevada, do they have head taxes that they are having to implement on their companies because, they've got an out of control budget. What is Chicago? Actually, in this article, I think we talk about how much money. I think it's a couple $100 million Chicago has spent on the criminal illegals, housing them, food, healthcare, all that good stuff. They've literally spent a couple $100 million on criminal illegals and then wonder, why do we have a big budget deficit? I don't understand. With rising interest rates that prominently figuring into the mix, Esteban adds lawmakers would be wise to act now. Actually, rates have been coming down. So you know what this is, though? This is reaction to baked in policy. This is reaction to Democrats being in control of not only Chicago, but Illinois. And it's not going all that well. You got a governor who's just, a nut job as well. Downtown has become this place where people drive in the mornings to go work, then leave in the evenings. She said there's nobody in the area after they felt left work for the day to stay and be paying customers. There's nobody there in general because most of the businesses have left. Large portion have just said, we're not renewing and we're not coming in. And that's that normal churn and burn that big downtown districts have, but that's not going on in these big blue cities. Seattle got high vacancy rate. Portland, some of the highest vacancy rates in the United States. And that's because they've all got the same policy. We're going to have to tax the F out of our wealthy and out of our businesses. And guess what? Those businesses have options. They are choosing to go elsewhere. And so then we go down further, this kind of logic. We got to revitalize the downtown region, becoming a community and not just somewhere that people commute for work. As the city also struggles with an ongoing housing crunch, there's any campaign designed to convert more loop offices into units residents can call home could go a long way towards solving both problems. Everybody wants to throw the more housing out there, but all you're doing is creating more unaffordable housing because it's not affordable, and nobody wants to live in downtown. That's this dystopian socialist dream of, we're all going to work, we're all going to work and walk within 15 minutes, and it's going to be a 15-minute city, and we're all going to ride our scooter to work. Just not realistic. It's not realistic at all. Chicago is considering a central area plan and what steps the city will take. One of the priorities of this plan is to revitalize the downtown area and then the nearby surrounding areas leading up to 2045. I think it'll start taking effect within the next couple of years. No, it won't. That's absolute nonsense. You are seeing the reaction by the business community to what is perceived as threats to their ability to run businesses. Where else are we seeing this? Grocery stores, businesses, restaurants. You've taxed the heck out of them. You've placed all these regulations on them. You've created a situation where it's so expensive to operate in those states that they're leaving in droves if they can. It's been an ongoing thing. Now, here we go. Proposed head tax, social media tax, a social media tax. That's how far they're reaching. And cloud tax increases would hurt Chicago. No kidding. We're not talking small dollars here. You're talking some huge taxation. And businesses see this and they recognize and they're like, pretty much not buying what you're selling here, right? I mean, a social media tax. I don't even think that's legal. Cloud tax. You know what I mean? But they have to. These big blue cities, they are absolutely scrambling with how to meet their budget deficits. And they know they can't tax the lowest within their population because those people have been impacted the most, right? High gas prices, high inflation. Those people got absolutely R-worded. They did. They just took it. Because relative to their income, what happened at the grocery store, what happened at the gas pump during pandemic, destroyed their ability to just basically run their lives, to fund their lives. And just about everybody in these big blue cities, except for the fairly wealthy, are struggling. They're struggling to make ends meet. So let's go, Brandon Johnson. He knows, okay, yeah, we can't really stick those people. We've already hit them pretty hard. So who's left? Big business, big wealthy people. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says he will not ask for property tax increase in budget because he tried it once and he got rejected 100% by his city councils. They said, no, let's go, Brandon Johnson. 𝗥𝗘𝗠𝗜𝗨𝗠. Right? So let's go, Brandon Johnson. He is absolutely floundering around trying to figure out what he's going to come up with while not looking like a total doofus. But whenever he opens up his mouth, he looks like a total doofus. Chicago mayor's progressive income tax idea would hurt Illinois, economist says. Yeah, but you know what? I get the feeling these progressives don't really care. They don't really care if they destroy the city. I honestly don't think they do. Because if they did, they'd look at their programs and go, oh, this clearly isn't working out. Maybe we shouldn't try this one again. Maybe rampant homelessness everywhere isn't a good idea. Maybe bringing in millions of criminal illegals into the country wasn't such a great idea. Maybe that wasn't the best of ideas. Because, geez, I don't know you know this, but human beings, doesn't matter where they're coming from. You got to feed them. You got to have a place for them to go to the bathroom. You got to have a roof over their head and see if you're taking responsibility. I don't mean your own constituents. You don't really give a shit about them. But I'm talking the criminal illegals. You got to give them health care. You got to give them food. You got to give them EBT. You got to give them SNAP benefit. I mean, you got to give them all this stuff, right? But not your own constituents. Because I hear the constituents of Chicago reach out to me and say, yeah, we're not getting any of this stuff. We are not on board with Let's Go Brandon Johnson. I don't blame you. Guy's a numbnut. I mean, he's a numbnut and he's driving Chicago into the ground. But you know what? This is what the people of Chicago wanted. They wanted a progressive mayor. Oh, so much progress. And we're going to progressively tax businesses out of Chicago to the point where that vacancy factor just keeps going up. Because ask yourself this, why would a business relocate to Chicago? Oh yeah, sign me up for that head tax. You betcha. Give me 2. Love it so much. Just give me 2. Right? No, that's not how this game is played. That's not how it goes. Businesses know this. These leaders know this. They don't have an option. Their back is against the wall. Let's go. Brandon Johnson is like, we're going to get some money to pay the bills. I'm going to look like a total numbnut. Already does. He already does, right? So he's going to have to make some very, very difficult decisions. And he's going to go, because he's, part of that progressive Democrat Party, he's going to look for that progressive revenue, just going to push more businesses out. So expect to see some more harebrained stuff like like social media tax. Expect to see that because, they're not going to reduce costs and they've got to come up with funding. And progressive revenue that's why you're starting to hear so much about that, is because it's basically tax the rich, tax big business. And we see consistently how that works. Those folks are mobile, meaning they don't sit still. It's like the people in New York City. They're mobile. They got money. They're going to Florida. They're going to Texas, even though Greg Abbott says 100% tariff for you if you come from New York to Texas. And he's kind of joking. So many news outlets, I don't think got that he's not going to tax people for coming into his city. He should. You know what he should tax people for is making bad political decisions. Oh, you voted blue. That's a tax because that negatively impacts our business structure here. So therefore, you're going to have to pay a little bit for that. So maybe think about that, in your relocation. If you vote blue and you bring your shitty policies into our state, we're going to have to tax you. And that's essentially what he's saying, right? It's essentially what he's saying. And in the meantime, Let's Go Brandon Johnson is just absolutely floundering, and he doesn't have the wherewithal to make this go. He's just being told, you got to tax these guys and you got to tax these guys. And that's what we'll see. This will be really interesting to see how it turns out, because it ain't going to be good. It's certainly not going to be good for the constituents of Chicago. So make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell, because I'll keep on top of this for you. You don't have to worry. Just check back every now and then. We'll see you then. Thanks again for joining. Bye for now.